Today, we're going to trace the story of a national holiday all the way back to its roots in one single American city. We're heading to Galveston, Texas, which is the birthplace of Juneteenth. So let's start with the picture most people have of this coastal town.
When you think of Galveston, this is probably what comes to mind, right? It's famous for its historic Strand District, a really popular tourist spot right there on the Texas coast. It's even been called the Wall Street of the South, and it's just filled with these beautiful Victorian buildings, shops, and restaurants.
But, beyond the scenic waterfront and all that historic charm, this island holds a much, much deeper, more powerful story. It's the very place where the promise of freedom, which was so long delayed, finally became a reality for hundreds of thousands of people. And that story, of course, is Juneteenth. It's the oldest known celebration marking the end of slavery in the United States. And it all kicks off on one specific day in this specific city when Union troops finally brought the news. So, let's go back to that moment. Okay, so our tour begins on June 19th, 1865. Now, the Civil War is over, but news travels slowly. And for so many people, freedom had been put on hold.
Just think about this gap in time for a second. The Emancipation Proclamation was issued over 2.5 years earlier. The war itself had been over for 2 whole months. But way out here in the remote territory of Texas, the institution of slavery just continued on, completely unchanged.
And we're not talking about a small number here. On that day in June, there were about 250,000 enslaved African Americans in Texas who were about to hear that they were and actually had been legally free.
So our first stop is right here, the corner of 22nd and the Strand. This is where the Osterman building used to be, which was serving as the Union Army headquarters. And it was right here that Major General Gordon Granger stood up and first read the words that would change absolutely everything.
And the message itself was nothing short of revolutionary. Listen to the specific language of General Order Number 3. All slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property. That phrase, absolute equality, being read aloud for everyone to hear, well, that was a radical and incredibly powerful promise.
But they didn't just read it in one spot. Granger's men literally marched through the city, making sure the news spread far and wide. From their headquarters, they went to the customs house and the courthouse, and then to a place that was already a center for the black community.
So, with the news delivered, what happened next? Well, the reaction wasn't just relief, it was the immediate birth of a celebration, a tradition that would end up growing for over 150 years.
And that brings us to our next stop, Reedy Chapel AME Church. This was the final stop on the Union Soldiers' March, and it very quickly became the heart of the very first Juneteenth celebrations.
This church has such a remarkable history. It was the very first AME church in Texas, and it was founded by enslaved people as a sanctuary of their own. After the announcement, it just became the natural center for celebration, and that tradition, it continues to this day, with an annual Juneteenth procession marching right to these very doors.
Those early celebrations were a real mix of solemn and joyous. You had prayer and readings of the proclamation right alongside food, music, and games. And today's celebrations really carry on that same legacy. The parades, the focus on family, the educational parts, it all has roots in those very first gatherings. So how in the world did a local celebration turn into a national holiday? Well, it took a really deliberate, multi-generational effort to preserve this history and make absolutely sure the story was never, ever forgotten.
This brings us to Ashton Villa, another key site in Galveston. Every single year, it hosts a commemoration of the reading of General Order Number 3. But it's also home to a monument that celebrates a really crucial step in Juneteenth's journey.
That statue honors a man named State Representative Al Edwards. He championed the bill to make Juneteenth an official state holiday in Texas, which finally passed in 1979. And with that, Texas became the very first state to do so. It was a huge milestone in cementing the holiday's importance.
This dedication to preserving the holiday started right from the very beginning. In the years after 1865, newly freed communities all across Texas started pooling their money together to buy land specifically for Juneteenth celebrations. These became known as emancipation parks, actual physical spaces dedicated to freedom and memory.
All right, let's bring our tour into the present day. Because this isn't just a story about the past. In Galveston, the story of Juneteenth is a living, breathing part of the city. And trust me, you can't miss it.
This is the stunning Absolute Equality mural. It's 5,000 square feet of public art, and it was deliberately placed to overlook the exact spot on the Strand where General Granger first read that order.
And notice the name of the mural, Absolute Equality. That's taken directly from that key phrase in General Order Number 3. It's just a brilliant way to connect the modern city directly back to the historical document that started it all.
This work is really driven by passionate community leaders. The Naya Cultural Center, founded by Sue Johnson, is a perfect example. It operates the Juneteenth Legacy headquarters right there on the Strand, using art and education to make sure this story is not only remembered but fully understood.
Today, Juneteenth in Galveston isn't just a single day. It's a whole week-long series of events. You've got banquets, prayer breakfast, historical lectures, and of course, a huge parade and march. It's a citywide recognition of its unique place in American history.
And this whole journey, which started with those first celebrations way back in 1866, finally culminated in 2021. From a local Texas tradition to a state holiday to, at long last, a federal holiday recognized by the entire nation. It was a long road, for sure, but one deeply rooted in the history we've just toured.
You know, Galveston's story really leaves us with a powerful question. Through markers, murals, marches, and just incredibly passionate people, this community has shown us one way to do it. It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What are the essential stories in your own community, and how are they being passed on?